Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digital to Dice podcast. I am Dave.
I'm Ron.
And Ron, we got episode 104 today of D2D.
Yes, should I use my FM radio voice one more time? 104 FM.
There's a lot of 104 FMs everywhere.
Yes, there are.
You know, it's funny when I know people down in Georgia and Florida, and they post like the big temperatures on the bank sign. And it's always like 104. I'm like, what do you listen to the radio down there? It's just like, no, that's how hot it is.
I lived in New Mexico for a time as a kid, and the morning that we left to come back to New England, it was 3:30 in the morning, or 3 in the morning. We had a 3:30 flight up El Paso, Texas. And on the way to the airport, they had a billboard that also gave the time and the temp. I'm not going to say it was 104 degrees, because that would just be too perfect. But at 10 after 3, it was 101 in the morning.
Oh.
Yeah, it wasn't
3 in the morning?
3 in the afternoon. 3 in the morning was 101.
Yeah, that's hot.
degrees.
Yeah. When it's 80, 90 degrees at midnight out here, it is hot. It is.
Yes.
I can't imagine that. So, yeah.
So
anyway, so episode 104, the Digital to Dice podcast. Ways to get a hold of us. digitaltodice.com is the website where we park all the shows over on Spreaker. 978-751-DICE, 978-751-3423. If you want to send us a text, if you want to send an email, digitaltodice@yahoo.com. And over on Facebook, if you want to join the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/digitaltodice and talk about what's going on in your product, talk about the show, anything like that is very welcome. Today, what are we talking about today?
we are talking about Project Prep. A reader or listener, I forget who it was, so forgive me on that, said, look, you just finished, did one on finishing a project, and I guess we're at the point now where we're kind of re-expanding some subjects we talked about earlier. Why not touch upon what you two do when you start a project or how you prep for a project? And in the spirit of our favorite non-high school, so we're going to go to Project Prep today.
Okay, yeah. So we're going to be some preppers today.
I got the 55-gallon drum of cream corn ready. Do you know what? There's a lot of ways I like corn. I hate creamed corn.
Yeah, Did
you ever eat that growing up?
I probably did, but it's not my choice. Just no.
The only thing that creamed corn is good in is like a shepherd's pie when you're baking it anyway.
Oh yeah, when it goes in, yeah. Yep, I'm okay with that.
But as far as what do you got? I got a can of creamed corn for you.
Yum. I got a video on my save to watch later playlist on YouTube, and they're opening up, I don't know if it's 85 or 100-year-old can of cream corn. It must have been from the war or something like that. Okay. And I still haven't watched it yet, but it's been in my queue for quite a long time, and I want to sit. Is
that Steve, the MRE guy?
I don't know who it is. It was one of these things that, how you go through YouTube and he's like, oh, that looks interesting, but I don't want to watch it now. So I have I have several hundred videos in my watch later that I just, one day I'll get to this. And I do. So every now and then I sit down and I'll chip away at the watch list there.
There is a guy, Steve MRE, and there's 4 digits after. And he tests out, meals ready to eat. And some of them are modern. And then once in a while, he'll pull out a gem from World War II and sit and watch them try to open up a can of peaches from 1943.
Oh, something else.
He'll try the coffee. He'll try to eat what he can that's not spoiled. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Because we all like train wrecks and that.
Yeah,
but
that is
kind of. Yeah. You don't eat that. You don't watch that on a queasy stomach.
No.
Oh my God. But
what I heard? Yeah. Not to turn this into a World War II food show, but I heard on one of the History Channel documentaries they had that when the Germans were holed up in Russia and they ran out of food, when they got the food shipment in, whatever they sent them was so high in something that when they ate it, because they hadn't eaten, and when they finally got this food in and they ate it, it blew their stomachs up and they all got sick and died. And it wouldn't happen if they were eating regularly, but because they were kind of on starvation rations.
Sodium?
It might have been. I don't know if it was some kind of a ham or a meat, whatever they sent them to this particular group of people I'm talking about, that they finally got food into these people after a long time. That whatever it was it was something that you don't eat when you're starving because it just wrecked them inside.
Someone will say that, but I would guess sodium just because it's such an easy way to preserve food.
Yeah, I think it was some kind of a salted ham. I don't want to say spam, but something like that.
Probably the German equivalent. I mean,
but they talked about like things that swayed the war, and they said that a lot of these Russians, they died. I mean, Germans died because when the food they get in, it just exploded their stomach.
That doesn't something dried and salty, sure.
Yeah.
Because when you eat something like raisins or dried bananas, I'm a fan of dried cherries. And you got to be careful how many of those you eat as we go further and further away from what we're playing. As soon as it hits the acid in your stomach, it expands back to full size before your body digests it.
Maybe that's what it was then. There was some food that they ate that made them really sick.
Salted and dried would do that because you're so hungry you just eat more. But yes, it's not uncommon for newer hikers or stuff to get sick on dried bananas because you're hungry and you've exerted yourself, and peanuts are regular and the M&Ms are regular, but the dried fruit expands to full size once it hits your stomach. There you go. That's your education for the day. So it wouldn't surprise, salted and dried.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. It was something to the effect that whatever they ate, it made them really sick and it made them worse. Actually, speaking about expending yourself, I've been hitting the gym pretty regularly.
Yes, you have.
As you know.
You are buff, my friend.
I'm getting there. I'm 2 months now. I've been hitting pretty steady, and that's along with
Sharon's calling you dreamy on Facebook.
I hope so. I used to be creamy. Now I'm dreamy. I was a cream puff.
When you're our age, it's one and the same, right?
It's hard in your mid-50s trying to start an exercise regimen. But anyway, so what I like to do is get on the rowing machine and I listen to YouTube. Sometimes I listen. If you're doing a baseball game, I'll put on Twitch and listen to baseball, whatever you're doing on Twitch, depending what time I'm there and who's on live or whatever. Sometimes I just put on music. Well, my music playlist has all kinds of things on it from my past. No kidding. I had one of my first podcasts, not my very first, but one of my first ones that I did, 2007. A hockey podcast come up, and it started up, and I'm like, what's on my playlist here? What kind of song is this? Sounds familiar. And it's me doing a hockey podcast for the Radcast. And it was August or September of 2007. So it's 14 years ago. And I listened and I was just laughing. And it was pretty good for the time. It really was, considering the technology. It wasn't terrible in 2007, but compared to what it is now, it's things are better, whatever. So what I thought about, and I still might do, is if I can dig that off the phone or dig that wherever I have that saved, I might throw that up on Spreaker. And just say,
I'd be curious to see what you got
yeah,
there.
just say, and just throw it up there and just say, if anybody's interested, this is kind of what I sounded like 14 years ago when I did the hockey podcast. And, this was kind of like my first step into the podcasting thing was 14 years ago. And then trying to compare it to what I'm doing now. And, it's not all that different. I just, it was kind of neat.
You had broadcast experience before, and it wasn't like we were 15, 16 years old back then either. So
yeah, so I don't know how. I was 40. I was 40 14 years ago. So
I remember 40.
I barely remember 40, but yeah.
Not
So
well, but I remember 40.
So yeah. So if you see something pop up on Spreaker that's not digital to dice, it might just be kind of a nostalgia thing to throw up there, because I know some of the hockey guys might get a kick out of that I mentioned in the show. Yeah. But if you want to listen to something I did 14 years ago, I might throw it up there. So if that appears up there, if you don't want to listen to it, just skip on by. But I might just throw it up there as a fun thing if anybody's interested. So anyway, so should we get to what we're playing?
Absolutely.
Well, I guess I'll go first this time. I say I'm playing a couple more hockey games. I did just a one-off the other day with Penguins and the Bruins 1990 on Action PC Hockey because I got the phone call. I'm going back behind the microphone this weekend.
Nice.
Yep. There's I think it's a junior hockey showcase or a junior hockey tournament that's taking place up here in the Northeast, and it's all these different rinks. And they asked, could I jump in on a few games. I said, yes, I can. So I think Friday and Sunday I'm going to be heading up to one of the rinks, putting on the headset, and I'll be calling some hockey games for real. Woo-hoo. So yeah, pretty excited about that. So I used the other night as a practice. I set up Action PC Hockey and I practiced Bruins and Penguins. Bruins actually got outshot 35-18 or something like that, and they won 6-3. I couldn't believe it. They got 6 goals on Barrasso. Andy Moog was great for the Bruins, but I was using that to kind of practice so I could because I don't think I broadcasted a hockey game in 2 years because of all the things going on.
All the stuff from last year. Yeah. There is someone who actually got a job calling high school sports based on his ability to call sim games.
Oh, I don't doubt it. Yeah.
Elon, young guy.
Yes.
I believe in Wyoming, and of course, then reality happened last year, and I think that all kind of fell apart. But he honestly got a job calling pretty much everything high school for a region based on his ability. Kid's got a great set of pipes too.
Yeah, it does. I mean, like I said, it is actually a good. Kind of a audio resume there. Where what have you done? Well, here, if you want to hear my voice, hear what I sound like, hear how I do it, doing these games here, it actually is not a bad idea. It just, and the thing is, doing actual play-by-play is so much easier because you're not playing the game. You're not trying to figure out the game and then broadcast. You're doing one thing instead of two. So what we do is playing the game, making decisions, especially cards and dice, trying to read the roles and figure out what's happening and then describe it. So it's a two-step process. But when you're just watching the game, you watch the game and just describe it. So it's a heck of a lot easier than what we do here. Looking forward to that. Getting back behind the mic for that. So I played the Action PC Hockey there. Playing more inside the cup golf. I do like that. I didn't stream any of that, but I did.
You still doing your England versus Spain thing, or are you doing something?
Yeah, no, I got to go the I think it's the back nine I got to do now. So I had a couple of English golfers and a couple of Spanish golfers, and I was using them. Just if you win the hole, you get a point. If it's tied, then no one gets a point. So I was just kind of doing my own thing with that. I need to get back and do the back nine of that. I still enjoy that game. That's a really, really fun game to do. I also I pulled out I get on Steam for some reason, and I played some Atari 2600 games.
I saw that you had done a stream. I haven't watched it.
It was fun. Yet. I think I went right down the line. I played some basketball. I played some golf. I played some I'd never played the boxing before, and I played the boxing. I knocked out the computer on easy mode, so that was kind of fun. Some soccer. I just kind of played a handful of games. Some skydiving game or something like that, and just kind of ran through the gamut. I think I played for like a half hour. I played 7 or 8 or 9 games. Just kind of fun going back in time and playing some of those games once in a while. It's not the first time I've done the Atari thing.
Pitfall and Defender were the games that got played a lot when I was growing. Not by me, because there was too many buttons.
Defender was fun. Pitfall was kind of fun too, jumping over the alligators and
well, the graphics for the 2600 were so much better for Pitfall than they were on any of the Atari games.
Oh yeah, Pitfall was a good one
for what Atari put out.
Yeah.
I think I've told the story before, but I'll tell it. Maybe it was one of those chat stream things. Pac-Man, one of the rare games I can play because all you needed was a joystick. There were no buttons to press, and so we got the 2600 and it came out. And so I'm in Rutland, Vermont, and for some reason, it was the only time I ever went into that Woolworth section. And the video games at the Woolworths were right next to the fertilizer section. Must have been that time of the year. And so my mother took one look at the price of Pac-Man and held her nose. We didn't get it there. So we went to Kmart, which was not too far away. Again, for whatever reason, the Atari section was right next to the fertilizer section. We bought the game there, and honestly, it was the worst port of Pac-Man I've ever seen. It looked nothing like what the Pac-Man on the
nothing on the
so
Atari.
Disappointing.
I did. So disappointing. Same way with the Space Invaders. I was a huge Space Invaders guy. When I got Space Invaders for the Atari, I was like, what? There's nothing like it. But we still played it. A lot. That's what we did.
Yeah.
So, and then I did more Steam. I think I played Grid Autosport's a racing game, and I like my racing games on Steam. And
pure arcade. There's no real.
And I like the older ones because it doesn't take up a lot of processing power, and they still look really nice in the computer. Yes. So I played a couple of racing games. I don't think I streamed any of that. Just a few things like that. I did. I just went off playing some different games. Some I streamed, some I didn't. It was just kind of fun to get back and do some things like that. After finishing that big hockey project, I'm trying to think about what I'm going to do for my next project. I still got I want to do something probably with football.
Oh, that's the topic of today, actually. This
is what we're going to do to start a project there. But yeah, so I've been playing some different things here, but I probably won't be playing anything this weekend because I'll be, like I say, I'll be doing the broadcasting this weekend.
That's awesome, though.
So Saturday I'll be around a little bit Saturday because I do my normal job Saturday. So I told them, I said I can't do anything Saturday, but Friday and Sunday I'm pulling some extra shifts. I think they want me to do a couple of games. I think the games are like 2 hours long. And so it's like it's hard to do 3. There's some people that go there all day, and they do like 5 or 6 games. Like, man, you just can't.
My voice is wrecked after about an hour and a half football stream.
That's
Baseball,
what,
you can control.
Especially if I mean, we do it here on the channel, but I haven't done anything like that in a couple of years. It's like, so I said, give me 2 games. That'd be plenty. If I try to do 3 and my voice gives out, I'm gonna,
I marvel at the guys who were able to do the 4 basketball games in one day, because you have the excitement thing, and if it's a close game, and the pacing of basketball and hockey is different from baseball, and to be able to sit there for 12 hours and keep at it and not need a bet, with their throat not in tatters.
Yeah, no, it's difficult. I did that one time. I was in Philadelphia, and we did a roller hockey tournament, a festival, and it was like from 8 in the morning to 11 at night. And I just started, and we had a lot of viewers. We were on, I forget what service we were on, but we had like 800 to 900 people, or 1,000 people watching us. So I kept the camera rolling, and I kept broadcasting, and I was trying to promote the league and the whole bit, and all of a sudden it was just like, holy cow! It's like 4 o'clock, and I'm still trying to do the game. I'm like, I can't talk anymore. Sorry, folks, but the broadcast is signing off. I'll leave the camera on, but my voice can't talk anymore.
Yeah,
that was a long time. So anyway, so that's what I've been doing, and that's what I will be doing this weekend.
Congratulations.
Yeah, no, it's hopefully it'll go well. What's fun about those things here? Usually, what they do is they just hand you the headphones and the roster, and you go. Like, I don't know. I don't know any of these teams. I just got to learn it on the fly. But I've gotten good at doing that. But when I used to do it, I used to have to set up to get the camera, the computer, sync it up, get on the internet, figure out the software's working. It's beautiful when I do these things. I just put on the headphones like I do here and go and just do my thing.
Have you ever run, because this won't be the first time that you do this, have you ever run across in the paper or watching on Nesson or whatever a name that you go, I know that name somewhere, and it was a kid that you called at one of these prep festivals?
A couple of times.
Maybe made it for the college or even an NHL game?
Yeah, there's a guy, Johnny Shivo, out of Long Island. Shavo, is it? And he played with one of the Long Island roller hockey teams, and he's been moving up in the ice hockey scene. I don't know if he's in the NHL or if he's in the minors or what he's doing, but he moved up a little bit. There was a couple of kids that I did high school games for that ended up in the juniors. So I did recognize a few guys there. In fact, there was a guy that played for Salem, New Hampshire, and he ended up playing on a junior team. And he had a really weird spelling of a name, but I knew how to pronounce it because I had called his games when he played in high school. So I was like, oh, this is kind of neat. I know him, And so there's a few guys I've seen kind of go up over the years. No one's that I've done has really made it that far that I can remember.
But still, that'd be kind of cool because it'd be a name that no one else would really recognize unless you knew the prep stuff and go half asleep and Dave Gardner, what?
Yeah.
Speaking of which, in part of our strange connection that you and I have, okay, guy at the coffee shop I visit comes up to me the other day and says that his grandson, old enough to have a grandson, that's in high school playing football. He's a starter this year. You know where he's a starter?
No.
At your local high school football team. He's a starter in Beverly.
Oh, wow.
And that's just one of those, no. And I didn't go through the story of you, but yes, one of those strange things that
I had two of my friends, one drop his kid off for college in Burlington, Vermont last weekend, and another one was up there. Another one was reffing a hockey thing up there, and they both were in Burlington, Vermont last weekend. I was like, holy cow. It's like, there you are, right up there,
Here I am. So I thought that was so cool but yes, he's I don't know what position he plays, but if you see him hear about a McDonald's at Beverly High, I had a cup of coffee with his grandfather this week.
That's pretty neat. It's pretty funny how that works out. Yeah. So one last funny story here. It was a Friday game I had to do, and Friday traffic in the Boston area is a nightmare, and I had to go around Boston to get to this place. And I'm calling the girl on the phone. I'm like, I left 2 hours before the game, and I am just not moving in traffic. And I'm looking at the clock, and the game's about to start. I get into the rink right as the game is supposed to start. And I called her, said, I'm running in. I'm putting on my jacket. I'm running in. Have the rosters ready. No joke. I ran up the stairs. I ran to where the camera was. She handed me the headset. I put the headset on. She handed me the rosters as they were dropping the puck. That's the closest I've ever come to missing. It was just, nothing I could do. I left 2 hours early for this game. I'm like, I'm not going to leave 3 hours early. So it's not going to happen. You don't pay me enough for that. And I got in there as they were dropping the puck, and here we go. And I had no idea what the teams were or who was what. And I said, the puck is won by this team.
Even at $1.25 a game, it's still a professional.
It is. I did. I pulled it off. I literally put on the headset as they were dropping the puck. They didn't wait for me. Of course, they're not going to wait for me. But it was just kind of funny that I got there right, and not a minute too soon or a minute too late, right as they dropped the puck.
Hey, some days you're the windshield, not the bug.
Right. All right. So what have you been playing?
What have I been playing? My 49, my 84 NFL replay got going this past week. Did 3 games, good ones. What did I do? I did the Eagles and the Giants, the Monday night game between the Cowboys and the Rams, and I did the Raiders. No, I didn't do the Raiders. I forgot what I did. Oh, Miami and Washington. So those games went well. And no, it's not an as-played replay. So thank you very much for telling me who the starting quarterback was. It's not what the computer determines the lineups, and I just kind of go from there. And yesterday, as we tape this on Wednesday, I did a Denver and Chicago, and it's always interesting because not during current season, so how things turn out in the future, and so you could see where the Bears defense was gelling into an incredible unit. And you could see where John Elway, who had barely turned 24, just thought that the world was his oyster, and he burned the Bears deep twice. And the call, and Dick has got the gum, he's chomping on it, he's throwing it on the turf, and blah 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 blah. And then you could see the Bears defense stiffen. I think they got a field goal out of one chance, and maybe the second was an interception. And it's like, yeah, because you know what's coming. And I always think that is so cool in a game. Just when you see, like, in 85, they wouldn't have allowed that. But in 80, the difference is they learned in 84 how to play. In 85, they passed the final. The Bears passed the final exam. And so you know what's coming. But when you can see the learning process. Again, it's all math. There's no thinking, reasoning there. It's just all random number generators. But it's like, oh, they're going to learn from this experience of giving up 2 50-yard bombs to Elway and that. I've also started to do in Action PC Golf a Phil and Tiger 2000 replay. I have Phil and Tiger set to always play, and maybe I'll pick up the last group if one of them's not there. And having a blast with it. We've gotten to Tiger did not win the one tournament that he was in. He was in the last group, however. And Phil, I believe, finished 5th in his first tournament and stunk up the joint in Scottsdale. So we've reached Pebble, and they're both at Pebble. And that's fun. And I'm doing one-off baseball game. Oh, my 77 Red Sox. They are now in first place in the American League East. They've had 7 games now where they've scored more than 10 runs. This offense just is incredible, and their ERA is like 4.30. I still don't know how this team got 40 complete games because I've had 3, and I'm about a quarter of the way through the season. It's been fun because I'm playing on the PC. It's all cards and dice, super advanced. Takes 10-15 minutes. I enjoy the pace of it, but as a manager, as opposed to a broadcaster, the challenge is, who do I use? There's nobody there that you can say, go get me 7 innings, because none of them can. However, I said this before, Rick Wise struck out 13. Reggie Cleveland.
Yeah,
Reggie Cleveland is, I played this morning. Reggie Cleveland is now 5-1. I think he's thrown 40 some odd innings in 7 starts, and his ERA is 5.10. So having a lot of fun with that, and that's and gems, and that's pretty much what I've been playing.
Oh, nice. All right, so should we get to the topic at hand?
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about starting a project.
Project prep, I think, is what
project prep. When you go to start a project, what are some of the prep that you do or we do the whole bit? So we'll get right into it. Well, one of the things I want to touch on is
we've talked about before what inspires you to start, but I guess we're going at this with the thought that we've had the bulb go off in our head, and here's how we're going to pull it off.
So now we're on to phase 2 of the starting the project. We've chose the project. Now we're going to play the project. And one of the things that you brought up when you were talking about the football game, how, it had the quarterback, and someone was saying, well, he really wasn't a quarterback, or this or that, or blah, blah, blah. Again, that part of the prep is how crazy do you want to get with the as-played lineup? Now, baseball is probably the simplest because as-played is all over. Sometimes the game has it all laid out for you. Sometimes it has a suggestion, and other times you can go online and find it. The other sports are a little more difficult to find. Hockey, you have lines, but they don't always stay together. You got injuries, someone's out, so the lines constantly change. Football, there's so many guys. You don't know who's in and who's out. And then basketball, you get your starting 5 and whatever. But so I think baseball, if you're going to do an as plays, it's easiest to do it that way. So I guess the first thing, what I do is when I start, it's like, so what am I going to do here as far as, especially if I'm doing stats and players, if I'm just doing, say, fast drive football or something like that, or quick play game, you don't need players. You just kind of taking the team overall rating and then doing that. So I guess if I'm doing that, then you don't got to worry about who's in and who's out. But if you're doing something with players, then you got to now part of the prep is, okay, how crazy do I want to get when I play these games to what actually happened and who was in the game at that point there?
I know for me, my use of as played in baseball is to pretty much get the usage right, because the projects that I show every game that I stream, you bounce around. It's not just one team. And if you're doing an average of 2 or 3 games a week, you're not going to be doing one team 3 times a week. I can't control the bullpen usage. And so I want something competent for me that when I go from a city A to city B, I can pick up city B, the team B, and go, okay, here's how we did this and here's how they do it, and just kind of go on from there. Went from my own project to go through the 77 baseball project. The challenge for me, it's always interesting to find a new challenge for you, because in baseball, again, it's easy to do as played in the computer. It does all the bookkeeping for you and all that, and just sets the players. I wanted the challenge of just doing an as carded replay without all the bells and whistles. So I shut off injuries for the 77 replay. but I only have the 25 players that's track carded. That's all I have all year. And so that for me, that is the challenge. How do I make this work and not fall too far behind reality? And so far, the reality is this team scores like you would not believe, and you are holding your breath every time with the pitching. That's where the thought comes in. For football, I don't do as played for those because, as you said, it's too much work. And anyway, once you start a project especially on a computer, it's all a work of fiction. Players are going to get injured at a different time. And so unless you want to go through and go, no, this lineman played the first 8 games of the season, I want to make sure that can't be there. I let the chips fall where they may. And so my reality is going to be different from what you read on the sports reference pages. I think overall, at the end, it all comes out as a wash. You're going to get close to what you should get, but I'll go through and read the page for the team I'm playing, or if I'm doing a single team project, get used to how they handled it, because different areas of football is a different mix of things. And how do I manage usage? How do I manage carries for running backs and passes and that? And then again, game situations, especially in the second half, that gets all thrown out the window. Because if you're behind and you're playing a team that runs at 8, the Dallas-Los Angeles game, the Rams are a run first, run second, pass maybe fourth team, but they got behind, and the only way they're going to catch up is to bomb the ball, and that team just wasn't there. But you go through and do the basic research so you don't look like a complete dummy when you're doing that. And I'll let you talk about how you set hockey, and then I can go into some of that too. So
yeah, and I think first off, it comes down to another topic we'll be tackling soon. Is there's no wrong way. Yes, and again, you got some grief for the wrong quarterback. I got some grief for somebody who was playing a game that was hurt, and just are we here to do exact replicas? Or are we here to play it out and see what our replay does? And that's a topic we'll be touching on soon as well. But for me, I think different projects call for different things.
Absolutely.
Sometimes, we're just talking setting up players and teams right now. What I will do is for the hockey, it depends on the project. Like for the shootout project, when I'm doing the entire season, I'm really not going to get into individual players. I do look up the goalies. I do look up the starting goalies, and I've been doing that for every game. I have a couple of APA hockey products I want to do with just like a single playoff series. I picked a couple of teams, and I'm going to play them out, whether it's the finals or whatever. And so I went to NHL.com or thehockeyreference.com, and I went to that series, and I tried to see who played. And so I have an idea who played in those playoff series. So I would print out the rosters for that game if available, or just one of them is just like generic, like here's the overall stats. So I see who played in net. Who did this defenseman play? Was this guy hurt? Oh, look at this guy didn't play at all in this series. So I would take him out in that replay. So sometimes for a shorter replay like that, I'll try to get a little bit more accurate. When it comes to a longer replay, that turns into a lot more work trying to find out who was in every game. So for me, I go with it comes out in the wash type of thing. Is I just kind of let it fly and just hopefully it comes out in the wash. Now, that works really well for PC games. Playing cards and dice, obviously, it's all manual and you got to set it up yourself. I usually don't do long cards and dice projects myself. I like the one-offs or a couple of series or something like that. So for the PC, I find the PC games that I play do a really good job of saying, okay, this guy didn't play every game, so he's got a 15% chance of not playing tonight because he needs to sit out 15% of the games or whatever it is. And I let the computer handle that. In fact, even that project that we did, the 77-78 hockey playoff project, I tried to use the goalie that I thought would play unless they were doing bad. But there was a couple of teams that had the same guy in each team because he was traded during the year, and they actually those two teams met in the playoffs. I don't know what team he played for in the playoffs. This was my choice to not get that deep into the reads of finding out who played and who didn't play. And I don't know if it was the Bruins and the Kings or if it was the Flyers and the Flames or something like that. But there was a couple of teams that I played that the same guy was on each team because he had been traded. And the computer put him in the game on both teams. And that's something that my personal choice, I didn't care because I don't want to get that deep into it.
Right.
So I'm not going to sit and go, oh boy, this guy's on the two. I better stop what I'm doing here and go see what, to me, it wasn't that important. I just was going with the teams that the computer gave me. So for me, it really depends on the project I'm doing. How accurate do I want it to be? Obviously, if I'm doing a tribute game for somebody, that person's going to play whether they were in the game or not. I will find, obviously they have to play. But a lot of times I'll let it ride unless I'm personally aware of something. If it's a team that I'm aware of or of a trade that I'm aware of. Obviously, Bobby Orr is not going to be playing deep into the 75 season for the Boston Bruins. That's something I'm aware of, and things like that. But for the most part, it really depends on the product I do. So for me, prepping for individual players, it comes down to what am I doing, why am I doing this, and what results am I looking for? Am I trying to get personal stats? If I am, then I need to pay a little bit more attention to who's on there, because if there's a couple guys I know that I had play in some of my games that definitely didn't play. Mm-hmm. But again, I'm just looking for a final score. I wasn't keeping stats. I'm okay with that, and I didn't want to spend that extra time to get all that accuracy of who was in the game.
Right.
And there's other times I do. Especially like I think the key for me, it's the key players. It's the goalies, the superstars, the quarterbacks, the running backs. Guys like that. In baseball, obviously pitchers, things like that. So I mean, for me, the key positions, those are the ones I focus on first, and then sometimes I'll go a little bit deeper than that. But for the most part, if I get the starting pitcher, goalie, or quarterback, I'm okay with that.
The other thing that you do, especially with cards and dice, is that you go through and you redo the cards with logos. And so you get a feel when you sit down there and do 85, 86 Celtics or something with your Apple ring, for instance, you got logos. And so you, along with a lot of other people, go through and go, this is how I want it to look. And so I want it to look and feel like I'm doing a game or playing a game.
Oh, yeah.
From whatever particular
That's era. A whole nother part of prep is not only setting up the lineups, but setting up your display. Whether it's on the computer or it's on the tabletop. On the computer, you put in the team logos. Sometimes they put in player pictures, the stadiums, the rinks, the fields, things like that. On the tabletop, it's the same thing. I like to, on my APA setup, I bought these little hockey nets that I put for goals. I think that adds it to me because I like seeing the net and putting the goalie in front of the net. That's kind of it. I like that. And I also put a logo of each team in their defensive zone, not only because that tells me what team it is, but I put the puck on the logo when it's a face-off in the defensive zone. Because because that matters, and that matters in Strat too, not just Apple. But there's a few games that, depending where the puck is for the face-off, that'll determine what happens after the face-off. Where if it's at center ice or neutral ice, then it doesn't. So there's a few things I set up for looks and display, and there's other things I set up because it helps me orientate myself to what's going on in that. When I play football games, I either break out the little helmets, or I'll print the logos too and set them on there too. So and on the computer the same way. So so sometimes with prep, it's setting up your display or your setup, as people like to call it.
Right. It's all part of the integration feel of what it is you want. It's interesting because a primarily computer game, I make sure that I have the right football fields or the baseball stadiums are set up and the logos and uniforms and such to be that immersive, because you're playing the computer, and I don't want to say it's easy to do, but it's all part of it. It's all part of the presentation, not only for me, But for, if I'm streaming a game, you don't want to be playing the Yankees and the Astros from Camden Yards, which is the default picture for Action PC.
Now,
take the time and do it right.
I am a stickler for that, actually, even when I don't stream. Even when I'm playing myself, I have to have that stuff there. Not all the time. I would say more often than not, I need to set up my fields or my logos or ice, whatever I'm doing there. If I have the option in a computer game to customize it with the actual team logos and to make it look like I'm playing in that particular city, I do. Occasionally I get a little lazy and just want to play, and maybe especially if it's a new game, I just want to try it out and see how it goes. Maybe I won't.
Yeah, that's different.
But anything I've had for a while that I know how to do that stuff, to me that's a big part of it. Is whatever game I'm playing, is I want to go and if I can put the logos on the ice or the field or the court, I want to do that. If I can have the team logos on there, I enjoy that. Even inside the crease, it doesn't have a lot of customization, but you can change the team colors, which you really don't have to because they did a good job with it. But you can put in the team logos, and it's just on the scoreboard. But to me, I like that. I like seeing the logos.
The immersion. Absolutely.
It's part of the immersion. It's part of my setup. And even when I'm playing by myself, I make sure that I go to the teams, I go to the setup, and I put in their logo so I can see them. So for me, that's 99% of the time I have that set up to do that. So
it's always cool when you set up the night before I start a new long-term thing. I'll go through and at least because these games can't sell with correct logos and in fields and all that. None of them can because they don't own, unless you're a part of the Park franchise from the hockey. I mean, because they're not the official games. And so the night before I started the football replay, I'm doing all the correct fields. And remember, I don't need to do snow fields for the South or rain fields or snow fields for anybody indoors. So you don't need to do the Saints 4 times over because they're never going to have a snow game in New Orleans or a rain game since they play indoors. To get the logos in there and the uniforms, which only I see because they're only on the roster screen. Again, it gets you into it. I think, okay, here's what you picked, here's how we're going to get into it, and here's how we're going to enjoy it. And it just, it's to get me in the mood for immersion.
That's a good way to put it. When you see all that stuff there, it gets you into the mood that you are there. You're not just at a generic place with generic teams, that you have teams that you're playing for a reason, at a place that you've chosen for a reason, and that does it. That immersion, it gets you in the mood for that. It's mood lighting, so to speak.
Right, and it kind of makes you want to go through and finish that. You've done all the work. You spent the half hour you could have played or 45 minutes doing something else just to do that. Now, the interesting thing for me is, because it's all PC stuff anyway, if I'm playing a card and dice port of a game such as Stratomatic, I don't do any of that. I want the cards and dice experience because I can't pull out the cards and just look at it. I want that gratification, if you will, of just the generic experience. Now, I paid for, thankfully it's you only have to do this once, the ballpark package, which there are 2 ballpark packages. There's the original, there's the outdated ballparks, and then there's the what you pay for. It's ridiculously expensive, but they're color shots of the game, and no matter what version they carry over. So when the 77 Red Sox play at Fenway, they're playing at a modern version of Fenway. So, I'm not that anal about it, but I have no pictures and I have no logos. It is, I see the cards. The computer rolls the dice. They don't throw the fake 20. It's the old split card there because that is the experience I'm trying to replicate. It's the anti-computer experience. While you go through when you put, again, there's nothing wrong with either way. It's a matter of what kind of immersion are you looking for.
That actually makes sense. So for that particular game that you're playing, you do no prep because as far as visuals go, because
as far as visuals
you
go,
want to take that right out of the box and just go raw.
I change the name so that not the Boston Baked Beans or whatever. I make sure that the team names are correct because again, they can't sell the game with
right.
Right. But that's about it. I might go through and I do 78 and change the stadium capacities because it looks weird to be playing at Fenway with 47,000 people. But beyond that, no. I want the experience of playing cards and dice. The Pro Football Helper, for when we play solitaire pro football, when you load in the teams, it loads a field. It may not be the correct field. I don't care. It's not something I added. But it's nice that the logos were there in the book for that. But if I'm playing the Giants and the Bengals from 1988 in a card and dice game like that, I don't really care. That's not what I'm doing it for because the immersion in my head is seeing the play out. And you can do it, we all do it as broadcasters, but playing it from a different perspective. So when I'm playing the 77 Red Sox, I'm not broadcasting the games in my head. It's not Ned or Ken Coleman or voices or my own voice I hear. I'm doing it as the perspective of being Don Zimmer, being the manager. What would I do in that situation? And again, the visuals don't really do anything for me. It's a thought about, okay, he's coming up on his fatigue inning or, making those decisions. Again, there's no wrong way to do that.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, though, that
presentations are gorgeous.
Yeah, some people really like just the raw experience right out of the box, and that's the basic setup, and they're happy with that. And other people go way overboard, like me sometimes, setting it all up with craziness. Even when I play shootout hockey, I printed out some of the rinks from Action PC Hockey on an 8.5 by 14 sheet of paper, so I got a nice big rink with the logo in the front, and I'll put my shootout cards, over the rink there, and I have the feel that I'm playing at this certain rink, and that's, to me, I think that's just the immersion. It sets me in the mood and the whole bit. And for
I completely get it.
And it's fun doing that. But again, it is prep work. It is time, and it's time. And we talked about time. I forget what episode it was that we talked about, cutting into your playing time. So The more prep you do, no matter what it is, whether it's rosters, whether it's visual displays on the tabletop of the PC, that's cutting in to your gaming time. Even myself, as far as prepping goes, prepping a season, prepping a project, if that's what we're talking about, sometimes if I have something that's a PDF, do I print out every team? Am I going to play every team? Sometimes I do. Sometimes I sit there all day and all night printing every team, cutting them all up.
By the way, let me cut you off right there because today in my email, Stratomatic has released the 1968 season for football in full. No best six. They printed all 26 AFL and NFL teams.
I think I saw that. That's kind of cool.
So just throwing that out there. I wanted to, before I forgot. I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
Yeah, no. So if you're into, that's great that they did all the teams instead of just six. That's kind of neat. But yeah, I mean, so just it's what you want to do as far as that stuff there goes. As far as how crazy you want to get with prepping, and sometimes I have to print out every team and every player for that season, because just in case I want to play that team, I don't have to go back to the drawing board.
You paid for it.
Yeah, I might as well print them up. But there's other times I'm like, I have this baseball season, and I'm doing the Roger Clemens thing, so I'm just going to print out the team that he plays. Because Clemens is not going to play anybody in the National League, so I don't need to print out National League. And so there's other times when I'm prepping for that project, I just print out what I need for that project, because this is all I'm doing.
You never know, and you see something on the Stastny brothers, and I've got Quebec. They certainly, if you have it in the Strat season, they only send you the 6. The rest of them are on.
Usually I would go back and print them all out, even the extra guys. Although, if a guy only played 1 or 2 games of 3 or 4 games, unless he was a goalie, I usually don't print those guys out in Strat. That was just me. Even in payoff pitch, there was a couple guys I'm like, I'm never going to use this guy, so I'm not going to print them out. So I don't have the complete set, but...
No, go ahead. Finish.
No, I just say so. Sometimes I have the complete set. Other times I don't. But again, that's part of the prep planning for the project. How do you want to have every team? Do you need every team? And whether you need it or not, are you going to print those out? Because again, that's more time spent prepping than playing.
Yeah, I've not done anything with the National League in '77. If the Red Sox make the World Series, we'll quick sim the NL season to find out who they're going to get. Do you? I do this regardless of which the main focus. I always read the reference page for the team. Not I don't need to use it religiously. I just want to see usage because some things always surprise me. For instance, Dwight Evans in '77 was not the everyday right fielder. He split the time with Bernie Carbo. And one of the things that's happened in my replay so far is in the middle of May, Bernie Carbo leads the American League in homers with 10. And so to do the whole Red Sox fans, how the hell do you manage that? He's hitting like crazy. I want to use Evans. Evans will be my right fielder the rest of that long-term project. But you'd be foolish to sit Carbo. I don't let him go above 150% usage. And so to go through and on the page and go, I was surprised because my memory was tricked on there and how they use that. Again, not to go full exact on that, but I want to see just a general clue of how they did, or in the football, how should I play this team, or in the basketball, 85, 86 with the Celtics. We both have done some projects with those. Kevin McHale missed 13, 14 games. He only played 68 that year. Not that we would ever finish an 80-game project, but when the computer injured him, he's supposed to be injured. This isn't just, and how do they deal with it, and how do you deal with it? I just want, even in something that isn't as played, I just want the blueprint. How did Casey Jones get to that point?
Yeah. Well, when you talk injuries, that's a whole nother topic for a show.
Right.
But just to touch on that, I'm playing the PC Replay basketball. That's what the project I'm doing with the '85 Celtics.
Right.
And the question I was asking is, okay, so McHale's going to miss some games because he's been hurt, so he can't play every game. And my question was, do I have to do that, or will the computer do that? And if the computer's going to take him out for either the games that he missed or just 15 random games, whatever it is, I'm fine with that as long as the other teams that have injuries
are all treated equally.
Are all treated equally, because I don't want to sit out McHale, who's one of my better guys, and play, the Atlanta Hawks, who have my number, and they have all their good guys, even though some of them have missed times, So as long as that was fair, but then we again, to talk about, I didn't go into the Celtics season and figure out what games that he missed, and if I'm playing a team who was missing in that game, that's way too much prep for that particular project.
Especially for the level of basketball fandom that you have. Now, if basketball was your number one sport,
then I might,
we can go in the Globe archives and look at the box scores for any given game.
And that's the great thing is that, if you really want to do the digging, you can really get it as almost exact as it was for that day, if you really do want to do that, if you want to spend the time. And I think that, again, for me, it comes down to what is the project, what do I want to do, how much time do I want to spend on this, and how important is it to me to get that game exact with rosters, no matter what game it is. Again, start with the key players, the key positions, and then after that, it takes a backseat.
And I think for overall, and again, as we keep saying, there's no wrong way to play a game. It's whatever is fun for you, the individual out there. What makes it work? For baseball, I'd probably be a little more of a stickler. I did a one-off today, and it was as played lineups for a random game, just because it was easier to do when it sets there and what have you. But for a football game or a hockey game, especially if I'm just doing a one-off on a hockey game, I want the best goalie versus the best goalie. For your project, because one of the series that I did that was not a real series, I went through on the hockey reference page and saw the Islanders and the Blackhawks. I knew that Esposito would be my primary goalie for the Blackhawks, but that was the year that the Islanders used Chico Resch as a number one goalie in the playoffs instead of Billy Smith. And so I made sure that was there, because Billy got most, especially in the Cup teams, he got all those starts, and Chico ended up in Colorado and Jersey and all that. But that particular year, Al Arbor went with Resch, and so I went with Resch because I looked it up. So, it's first, I guess to make a long story short, plausible but realistic.
Yeah.
Or realistic but plausible.
Yeah.
But
again, how much of a stickler do you want to be for that particular game, that particular project? Another thing I want to talk about too, real quick, Ron, is when you're prepping a project. I've done some quick play games or quicker play games, and there's different ways I've done that. I did a full season rolling dice 1970-71 with Final Score hockey from Downey, and what I did with that is I printed out all the score sheets first, like all the generic score sheets. Then I went in and I had the schedule, so I would write the games down, and then I would go and I would, you put in the ratings of the teams to get the final ratings, and so then it was kind of in three stages.
The score sheets, yeah.
It was like, so print out the blank score sheets, write the schedule down. And I think as I was doing the schedule, I might have put in their ratings and then get the final ratings. So now I'm ready to roll. And I think I did that. I don't know if I did it like every month. I would prep a full month, and then because I didn't want to prep the whole season. That's a lot of prep. 400 or 500 games to prep and not have any fun. So I think I would prep like the month of October, and then I would roll October. So at least I could enjoy the playing of the game. And then once October was done, I'd start it all up again with November.
I can see why you do that because, when it's time you can just do 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, of writing things down and getting the ratings. But when you sit down to play, I just want to play.
Yeah.
There are, for baseball seasons, to get back to that, there are websites that have pre-printed as-played lineups for given seasons. And so all you got to do is record the ratings for, you know what the lineup is. You pull out the cards for the lineup for the game you want to play. The only thing you have to do is fill in the required ratings, and you're ready to go.
Yeah.
And again, that is more time for gaming and more time for you to get into whatever it is that you're looking to reproduce.
Now, conversely, going back about a year ago now, I printed out one of the. Ironically, I think it was the same season you did your Action PC replay. And what was that, 82? That you did?
Which
you did a season for. Was it 82 you did for Action
for baseball?
No, football. I thought you did
I've done 78 and 86, and we're doing 84.
Maybe it was 86 then. So it was one season in Game Winning Drive that I started to set up the score sheets. And I would set, and there's a Game Winning Drive helper that was kind of neat. So you could just click on the teams and it would set it all up, and you could just print it out from there. And so I was doing that. So I would set up the team and print it. And I started printing out like all the sheets ready to play. So all I had to do was sit down, do a couple of quick things of math, and then roll the dice and get the result of the game. And I ended up printing out 7 or 8 weeks of score sheets for that season. And I never rolled a game. So that's where I should have probably done the first week and then rolled.
Definitely is more than a bite off more than.
Because I thought I could just print the whole season, and then now the prep's out of the way. Now I can just roll the rest of the season and enjoy it. I get that. I never finished the prep, and I never started any of the games.
I think there's a balance there between the work part of the project and the reward part of the project. And if you had some of the reward, okay, maybe you did the first 4 weeks of the season, and you played week 1. Okay, I like the project, I want to continue it, and it makes you want to go through. But yes, if you spend all the time going through for 240 some odd games in a full NFL season, you're just damn sick of it before you even.
I mean, if you spend all the time cooking and doing the dishes and never get to eat the meal,
And you're still microwaving the meal because everyone else
everyone else ate and you didn't get to eat yet. Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like sometimes. Like I got all this extra work I'm doing here and I never really got to enjoy what I did this for.
Right.
Even though sometimes prep can be fun because you're looking at rosters and logos and I remember this guy and this is going to be fun. And you start anticipating. It's kind of like appetizers, so to speak, because this project's going to be fun with all this other stuff here. But again, sometimes the prep work it can be a little much, and it can take away from it.
You get too deep in the woods. Before we go, you want to say a few words about Sam the Bam Cunningham?
Oh, I saw that he passed, huh?
71. Yeah, I didn't realize he was Randall Cunningham's brother.
Really?
Yes.
They must have been pretty far apart because Randall.
Yeah, because they're
I did not know that.
I'm a Patriots fan, and he's still their leading all-time rusher.
Yeah, I still play a lot of the old 70s Patriots, and he's the main rusher. It's really enjoyable. Oh, I think I saw that. That's too bad. And David Patton, too.
Yes.
That was crazy. That really was. It was like, wow.
I'm older than he is.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
so
I never want to see that. So, yeah.
It's been too bad, unfortunately. So, not to bring us down on a note like that, but anyway.
No, but I know that you played enough of those 70s Patriots teams that I thought that would be worth.
Yeah, no, it has. It's I remember that come up across the wire. So anyway, so when you guys prep for your projects, what are some of the things that you do? What steps do you take? How crazy do you get? You just start rolling it? What do you do? Do you like to print out score sheets in advance, or you just kind of do one at a time and then play the game? I mean, there's no right way, there's no wrong way, but we're interested to see how when you sit down to do it, how do you do it? How crazy do you get? How accurate with rosters do you want to be? Does that matter? Do you just want to let the chips fall where they may and let it just kind of ride? So all kinds of ways to do projects.
Also, is there a magic formula you use that prep work ensures that you go through with a project? Because we all have projects that have died. Is there something that you do that if I know that I do A, B, and C, the chances of me finishing this are better?
And there's sometimes, now that you bring that up, there's sometimes that I'll start prepping for something and I'll be like, no, I'm not feeling it. I was all excited about it, and I started and I see what it's going to take to do this, and no, I think I'm going to do something else. So there's been times that I've started to set up something, and I have the great idea, and I was like, yeah, no. I want to do something a little bit different. This looks like it's going to be a little more daunting to me. It's going to be a little longer than I want it to be, or it's going to, whatever it is, whatever the reason is, it's like, this is not going to really scratch the itch I was going to scratch now.
Yep.
So we've all done that too. So anyway, all right. So should we wrap this up?
Absolutely.
All right, by the numbers. This has been episode 104 of the Digital to Dice podcast. We talked about prepping your project and basically getting things ready, setting up. How do you do it? What are the steps you take as you get ready to play your next sporting project? Ways to get a hold of us. Our website is digitaltodice.com. Text line 978-751-DICE, 978-751-3423. Send us a text and say hi. Email is digitaltodice@yahoo.com. And over on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/digitaltodice. Ron, thanks for joining me today.
As always.
And we'll talk to everyone later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.